You have done a lot of deep thinking about the world, about yourself, this kind of introspection. How do you think? If you, by way of advice, but just practically speaking, day to day, how do you think about difficult problems of the world?
First of all, I take time off. Like the most important thing I do, I think, as a writer, as a scientist, I meditate. I spend about 2 hours every day in silent meditation, observing as much as possible non-verbally what is happening within myself, focusing, body sensations, the breath. Thoughts keep coming up, but I try not to give them attention. I don't try to drive them away. Just let them be there in the background, like some background noise. Don't engage with the thoughts. Because the mind is constantly producing stories with words. These stories come between us and the world. They don't allow us to see ourselves or the world. Like for me, the most shocking thing when I started meditating like 23 years ago, I was given this simple exercise to just observe my breath coming in and out of the nostrils, not controlling it, just observing it. And I couldn't do it for more than 10 seconds. I, for 10 seconds, would try to notice, oh, now the breath is coming in. It's coming in, it's coming in. Oh, it stopped coming in, and now it's going out, going out. 10 seconds, and some memory would come. Some thought would come. Some story about something that happened last week, or 10 years ago, or in the future. And the story would hijack my attention. It would take me maybe 5 minutes to remember, oh, I'm supposed to be observing my breath. If I can't observe my own breath because of these stories created by the mind, how can I hope to understand much more complex things like the political situation in Israel, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the Russian invasion of Ukraine? If all these stories keep coming, I mean, it's not the truth, it's just the story your own mind created. So first thing, train the mind to be silent and just observe. So 2 hours every day, and I go every year for a long retreat between 1 month and 2 months, 60 days of just silent meditation.
Silent meditation for 60 days.
Yeah. To train the mind, forget about your own stories. Just observe what is really happening. And then also throughout the day, have an information diet. Many people are very aware of what they feed their body, what enters their mouth. Be very aware of what you feed your mind, what enters your mind. Have an information diet. So, for instance, I read long books. And I prefer, I do many interviews. I prefer 3 hours interviews to 5 minutes interviews. The long format it's not always feasible, but you can go much, much deeper. So I would say an information diet, be very careful about what you feed your mind, give preference to big chunks over small
books over Twitter.
Yes, books over Twitter, definitely. And then, when I encounter a problem, a difficult intellectual problem, then I let the problem lead me where it goes and not where I want it to go. If I approach a problem with some preconceived idea, solution, and then try to impose it on the problem, and just find confirmation bias, just find the evidence that supports my view, this is easy for the mind to do, and you don't learn anything new.
Do you take notes? Do you start to concretize your thoughts on paper?
I read a lot. I don't take notes. Then I start writing, and when I write like a torrent. Just write. Now it's the time you read. You did meditation. Now it's the time to write. Write. Don't stop. Just write. So I would write from memory, and I'm not afraid of formulating, say, big ideas, big theories, and putting them on paper. The danger is once it's on paper, not on paper, on the screen, in the computer, you get attached to it. And then you start with confirmation bias to build more and more layers around it, and you can't go back. And then it's very dangerous. But I I trust myself that I have, to some extent, the ability to press the delete button. The most important button in the keyboard is delete.
Yeah.
I write and then I delete. I write and then I delete. And because I trust myself that I'll have every time I come to press the delete button, I feel bad. Like it's a kind of pain. Hey, I created this. It's a beautiful idea and I have to delete it.
But you're still brave enough to press delete?
I try, and hopefully I do it enough times. And this is important because in the long term, it enables me to play with ideas. I have the confidence to start formulating some brave idea. Most of them turn out to be nonsense. But I trust myself not to be attached, not to become attached to my own nonsense. So it gives me this room for playfulness.
I would be amiss if I didn't ask, for people interested in hearing you talk about meditation, if they want to start meditating, what advice would you give on how to start? You mentioned you couldn't hold your attention on your breath for longer than 10 seconds at first. So how did they start on this journey?
First of all, it's a difficult journey. It's not fun. It's not recreational. It's not kind of time to relax. It can be very, very intense. The most difficult thing, at least in the meditation I practice, Vipassana, which I learned from a teacher called Esen Goenka, the most difficult thing is not the silence. It's not the sitting for long hours. It's what comes up. Everything you don't want to know about yourself.
Yeah.
This is what comes up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very intense and difficult. If you go to a meditation retreat, don't think you're going to relax.
So what's the experience of a meditation retreat when everything you don't like comes up for 30 days?
It depends what comes up. If anger comes up, you're angry.
Yeah.
For days on end, you're just boiling with anger. Everything makes you angry. Again, something that happens right now, or you remember something from 20 years ago, and you start boiling with. It's like I never even thought about this incident, but it was somewhere stored with a huge pile of anger attached to it, and it's now coming up, and all the anger is coming up. Maybe it's boredom. 30 days of meditation, you start getting bored, and it's the most boring thing suddenly no anger, it's the most boring. Another second I scream. I mean, and boredom is one of the most difficult thing to deal with in life. I think it's closely related to death. Death is boring.
Mm-hmm.
In many movies, death is exciting. It's not exciting. When you die, ultimately it's boredom.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happens.
It's the end of exciting things.
And many things in the world happen because of boredom. To some extent, people start entire wars because of boredom. People quit relationships. People quit jobs because of boredom. And if you never learn how to deal with boredom, you will never learn how to enjoy peace and quiet. Because the way to peace passes through boredom. And from what I experienced with meditation, I think maybe it was the most difficult, maybe at least in the top 3, like much more difficult, say, than anger or pain. When pain comes up, you feel heroic. Hey, I'm dealing with pain. Mm-hmm. When boredom comes up, it brings it, with depression and feelings of worthlessness, and it's nothing. I'm nothing.
The way to peace is through boredom. David Foster Wallace said the key to life is to be unboreable. Which is a different perspective on what you're talking to. Is there truth to that?
Yes, I mean, it's closely related. I would say, like, I look at the world today, like politics, the one thing we need more than anything else is boring politicians. We have a super abundance of very exciting politicians who are doing and saying very exciting things, and we need boring politicians. And we need them quickly.
And the way to peace is through boredom. That applies in more ways than one.